Qui è ora. Qui è dove conoscere significa confrontarsi con le sfide della contemporaneità, ascoltare le nuove generazioni da accogliere nel tempo presente. Ora, Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Visita il sito unicat.it.
Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
Qui è ora. Qui è dove conoscere significa confrontarsi con le sfide della contemporaneità, ascoltare le nuove generazioni da accogliere nel tempo presente. Ora, Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Visita il sito unicat.it.
Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
Qui è ora. Qui è dove conoscere significa confrontarsi con le sfide della contemporaneità, ascoltare le nuove generazioni da accogliere nel tempo presente. Ora, Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Visita il sito unicat.it.
Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
Qui è ora. Qui è dove conoscere significa confrontarsi con le sfide della contemporaneità, ascoltare le nuove generazioni da accogliere nel tempo presente. Ora, Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Visita il sito unicat.it.
Civiltà dell'amore, fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Buonasera amiche ed amici del meeting, buonasera a quanti.
Good evening to those who are here and to those who follow online through the different channels created by the meeting organization as well as by so many mass media. 2 days and 4 months. And then Pope Francis will open the Holy Gate of the Basilica of St. Peter on December the 24th. The Catholic Church is about to celebrate one of its solemn jubilees. The history is known. It dates back to the year 1300 with the Pope Bonifacius, and the tradition compels that every 25 years there is a Holy Jubilee. There are also extraordinary jubilees, as that of Mercy that was organized by Pope Francis between 2015 and 2016. The previous one was the Holy Year of Redemption, celebrated with Pope Wojtyla in 83-84. Then there was an ordinary Jubilee, which was actually unique, historic, because it marked the end of a millennium and the beginning of the new one. And the Holy Year of 2000 was full of events, of themes, and of suggestions for the Church, but also outside the Church. The energy is of Saint John Paul II was not so strong as it used to be, but he was still a charismatic figure. So that's how the 2000 years from the birth of Jesus were celebrated. And many within the Church expressed their fears that because of the resonance on mass media, the real reason for the Holy Year could get somehow lost. This is a risk that we have today as well. When we talk about Jubilee, the religious and spiritual meaning of this event are somehow neglected. The Jubilee of the year 2000 is the most solemn event to which we can compare to imagine what awaits us in the next few months. As you know, we have now a logo, we have the hymn, we have the official website. And the motto is the Pilgrims of Hope, chosen by Pope Francis, that was also expressed in the Holy Bull of the Pope, spes not confunded. So this is a reference to the life of pilgrims, because history is full of different destinations of pilgrims. But there is an event that actually identifies the participation to a Jubilee. Well, this is actually the pilgrimage from the very beginning of the history of Church. So, to become pilgrims of hope, that means to be aware of our past, but to look at the future in the dimension of hope. So there are many different questions that emerge when we think about this upcoming Jubilee. What can the Jubilee give to modern man? It is a celebration that speaks a very difficult language for many people. So, well, as the 25th of December comes closer, we will see a lot of articles on newspapers that explain what a Jubilee is. But what is indulgence, apart from the technical definition? And what does it have to do with this search for the essence? That is the theme we have here in Rimini. And then hope. Can we still have hope? So many hopes were shattered in the past. Let's think about the war that has come back in the world and in Europe. Let's think about the environmental crisis. Let's think of all the challenges due to the incredible progress of science and technology. And for instance, the AI, just to mention one. So, well, today we don't seem to have a lot of elements that lead to collective hopes. The whole year 2025 will make us think if we don't want to actually miss this opportunity. So we're starting tonight. So we have distinguished guests here tonight that are somehow connected with the organization of the Jubilee. We have Monsignor Rino Fisichella of the Dicastery per l'Evangelization, who's responsible for the 2025 Jubilee. And then Antonello Aurigemma, who is the president of the Regional Council of the region Lazio. Marco Girardo, who's the director of Avvenire. Paolo Giuntarelli, who's director of the Regional Direction of Affairs of the Presidency, Tourism, Cinema, Sport and Audiovisual of the Lazio region. Roberto Gualtieri, who's connected online, who's the extraordinary commissioner for the Jubilee 2025 and mayor of Rome. And Professor Danilo Zardin, professor of modern history at the University Cattolica in Milan. So let's start this meeting with the man who, for a few months now, has been devoting his work and energies to the very difficult organization of this event. So managing the relationship with all the institutions, with with mass media, with all the international bodies and institutions. So I'm talking about Monsignor Fisichella. And I have a question for him. This Jubilee seems to be created in the name of hope. This motto, this title, Pilgrims of Hope, is based on this holy bull that was published last May and is entitled Hope Does Not Disappoint. So why hope? Hope is a virtue that is part of the life of all Christians and all holy years, not just this one. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to talk about the Jubilee together. So if we want to be very transparent, we have to say we always talk about faith and charity. We never talk about hope. Hope is an unknown entity. When art wanted to express hope, it has always encounters difficulties We, Christians, believers, we know about hope. We live in hope. In his Pope Francis says everybody hopes. So this is something that goes back to Saint Augustine. He says, let me know whom you love, who is your hope. So we announce faith, the need to believe, the testimony of mercy, but we do not realize, if we take the example of the French author Charles Péguy of the 19th century, who defined hope as the little sister, the one that's never seen, and is led by her big sisters, charity and faith. And then it says, you believers do not realize that it's not faith nor charity that lead hope. It is the hope that leads faith and charity. So, well, without hope, we cannot find the essence of life. So, I really appreciate the title of this meeting. If we are not after the essence, then what are we after? The hope is part of the essence of personal life, and in particular Christian life, because together with faith and charity, hope is what creates the style of the life of a believer. If we want to announce our faith, we need to speak, to talk about hope. And this is a great challenge because we don't know much about hope. Among the questions that are posed by the director, there is this question: what do we think hope is? We take it for granted, as St. Paul said, that hope does not disappoint. But is it true? And why? Why is it true that hope does not disappoint? So all this is part of a path. That's why we're pilgrims. A personal pilgrimage of the whole church, of humanity as a whole, at a moment like the present one. When we talk about hope, when we talk about violence, we immediately think about the wars that are underway at the moment. But there is a lot of violence in our cities as well, a lot of violence in our everyday life, which we have to, in a way, accept. And this makes us responsible for hope. So I think that these questions that are needed and that are in a way derived from the Bull itself, where the Pope gives his own answer, well, this is what goes beyond of our interests, all the things we have to do, is the idea of the hope and the great intuition of this papal bull is that we go beyond announcing hope. We also have the signs of hope that we have to create. So apart from rhetorics, we talk a lot about hope. We were going to speak about hope for a year. But before that, before talking about hope, before announcing hope, we also need to offer, to give, to create concrete signs of hope. The Papal Bull actually mentions some of them, but these two elements are united, and that is what makes our announcement for the Jubilee extremely original. Thank you. So this idea, this dimension of responsibility, personal responsibility, and an announcement of these elements of hope. But the Jubilee also entails a big organization. So, well, I would like to now ask to the mayor of Rome, Mr. Gualtieri, who's connected online, because he will have to leave in a while, so that's why he's going to intervene now. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Holy years and the Holy Year of the Jubilee 2025 will bring Italy and Rome in particular on the forefront. So Rome has to do its best to be up to this situation. This beautiful city has actually a lot of new and old problems, some of which still need to be solved. The management of services, urban services, has a lot of problems. Public transportation, the situation in the city in terms of clean streets. We're talking about the arrival of 33 million pilgrims during the Jubilee, about 100,000 pilgrims a day. Will Rome be up to this?
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate in this meeting within the framework of the Rimini meeting. And I would like to express the utmost commitment that me as mayor and our administration, in strong collaboration with all the institutions and the Holy See, Monsignor Fisichella, I would like to greet him would like to warmly lead him. We should implement concrete signs of hope, as Pope Francis said, a concrete ability of the capital city to be able to organize such an event. This is an extraordinary feature of the Jubilee. It is a real challenge, a tremendous challenge, and the presence of pilgrims will be higher, because we have over 100,000 people per day that we expect, and we're going to organize many big events. It is also an extraordinary, outstanding opportunity for us, for the believers, for the whole world, for the universal spiritual function that Rome has. It is also an opportunity for the city to face its endemic problems. So the Jubilee has always been a big opportunity. More recently, let's think about the Jubilee of 2000 and 1975, and Jubilees in the past were the opportunities to carry out and to implement important interventions that could be long-lasting for the town, in harmony with the principles indicated by the Holy Father, by the Pope, the duty to welcome in the best way possible the believers and the pilgrims who will come to Rome. We should also try to transform Rome. Rome is transforming itself. This is a logo in many building sites. We've tried to solve, going in depth, many problems. For instance, the lack of maintenance, lack of interventions on the public transport. We had to replace all the tracks of the subway line. They should have been replaced 15 years ago, and this is what we're doing. Of course, we are causing problems. We're causing distress to the travelers, to the citizens. So we are buying hundreds and hundreds of new buses, because we also need to replace the bus network. We are also carrying out an in-depth renewal of the road network of Rome. Many of these roads had not been properly renewed for dozens of years. And so we decided to solve the structural problems of Rome, taking on the responsibility. And we spoke to the Roman citizens, telling them that this year is going to be a very tough year, but then Rome will be more beautiful and more efficient than it was before. We not only focus on infrastructure and public transport, we also carry out interventions to make Rome more beautiful and more easily to be enjoyed. A new square will be built, and it will be a sort of an embrace between the Holy See and Rome. So two large public squares will be built, and I am thinking about the restoration of many facades and front parts of many peripheral churches, many areas close to the Tevere River, many interventions whose aim is not only to make Rome more efficient, but also more inclusive and more sustainable from an environmental point of view. And we are aware that these topics are fundamental topics today, and these issues have drawn the attention of Pope Francis. I've taken part in very important meetings in order to focus on which kind of changes need to be implemented in towns in order to face the situation and to make progress. So this is a challenge, but it is also an opportunity. It is a duty. We must try and provide answers and to be up to the public debate, which is very important on how we should make our cities and towns places that are more inclusive, greener, and closer to the citizens. Unfortunately, we've lost a connection with the mayor of Rome. Let's see whether it is possible to restore the connection or we move on with the other speakers.
Proviamoci. Eccolo qui. Prego, siamo già ricollegati.
So we've managed to reconnect with the mayor, but we cannot hear you. There's no sound. So we are aware that these are enormous problems in which local interventions should be at the same time linked to global projects and global views. And I believe that this makes this challenge very stimulating, and the idea of the Jubilee as an opportunity to make Rome more modern, more sustainable, and more beautiful. The idea of having concrete and limited local interventions, road by road, street by street, trying to involve the volunteers, the citizens, and trying to be very down to earth.
È davvero ogni tanto anche.
So can you hear me? I'm sorry, there are connection problems. So we can hear now. So I draw to a conclusion in order to avoid any other disconnection. So interventions that need to be linked with a universal kind of vision. The idea that I believe that Pope Francis has conveyed during the COVID period. We are on the same boat. We have different problems. Each place is different from the others. But in the end, we have universal, similar problems. Men are all equal. The migrations, poverty, these are all challenges that are common and widespread all over the planet.
Esatto, la sfida migliore in questo momento è che il collegamento funzioni.
The biggest challenge at this moment is that we have a stable internet connection. Hopefully, we hope we can restore the connection. So we can hear now. So with in collaboration and adhering to the hints of the Holy See, we are confident and we really have hope. We are not abstractly confident, we are concretely confident that with an overall and global commitment we can be up to this big opportunity. First of all, a spiritual opportunity, but also a very concrete opportunity linked to the future of our city, which has this privilege and this unique responsibility to host the Jubilees.
Signor Sindaco, io avevo altro.
Mr. Mayor, I had other questions for you, but unfortunately, we should not be bolder than we've already been. So if you still listen to us, thank you. Thank you very much, and I wish you fruitful work in the months ahead. Thank you.
Antonello Aurigemma is the president of the Regional Council of the region Lazio. And as we heard, the 2024 meeting has focused on what is essential in our lives, satisfying our desire for good, for the truth, for beauty, and also hope, that is the main theme of the 2025 Jubilee, is an essential part of our heritage, to look at the future with hope. So, in such a solemn event as the Jubilee, how can this reference to hope inspire politics that doesn't seem to have a vision on future? Well, the words of Pope Francis are extremely important. They are food for thought and they are inspiration, and hope is one of the essential values that we should never forget. Very often we try to acquire something more, something that actually takes us away from the real world values of our lives. Helping those who are in need, being generous. So we were talking about violence, about wars, about the violence in our cities. This is something that we often have in our lives, and it is how we actually tackle these issues that should be tackled in a very joint, common way. So I hope that the Jubilee will be the year when we will open our doors not only to the million of tourists who will arrive, but also the doors of the hearts of the pilgrims. I hope this will be a moment of encounter between different identities, different cultures, because the difference becomes a personal development. So this kind of comparison is something that is missing. Debates take place on TV nowadays. People are always very angry and they fight all the time. So the places where debates should take place are no longer places of growth and of dialogue that should give real solutions to real problems. So the Jubilee is an opportunity for us as Christians, but also for those who are not Christians. Rome is a crossroad of different cultures. It has welcomed many people. I do remember the sanctification of Father Pius. We welcomed over 3 million people who arrived that day with all the connected problems. And Rome has, is over 2,700 years old and has always been able to answer to the needs. So the first thing we have to do is digitalization so that the municipality of Rome can have an adequate internet connection. So we have, you have heard the number of pilgrims that are awaited during the Jubilee, and we hope we will have cooperation at different administrative levels in order to underline the resources, the skills that our municipality, our region, our government has created to welcome this enormous flow of pilgrims that will come and visit Rome, visit its monuments, our culture, our history. So we will be ready to give concrete answers and, in spite of all the differences and the difficulties we have in this mini city. And so we're all together in tackling this challenge. A solemn event like the Jubilee, with all its the events that it contains, calls for a great commitment in terms of what mass media will have to report. So for a newspaper that is a Catholic newspaper like Avvenire, this is a very important commitment. So I would like to ask to the director of Avvenire, Marco Girardo. This is a newspaper, really is a very well-written newspaper. I hope you read it. For those who are Christians and those who are not. And I'm really convinced of this. So this newspaper will have to tell about the Jubilees. Do you already have some guidelines? This is important for me, also for my work. Thank you, Vincenzo, for your nice and kind words. Thank you for your invitation. And I'm really happy to be here for the first time as the director of Avvenire to talk about a theme that is extremely important as that of a Jubilee. So to be very concrete, in May, the papal bull that announced the Jubilee was issued, and all the colleagues within the newspaper had to read the 700 pages on hope written by philosophers, so that now we know what hope is. But as Monsignor Fisichella was saying before, a lot of it has been written on hope, but hope in itself is a virtue, is something that is very difficult to grasp. It is in a way like the time for us and Augustine. We all live in time. We know how time passes, but if we have to define time, we can't do it. The same is true for hope. So the duty of a newspaper is to translate this announcement of hope into something that is an everyday tale. So this bull gives us a great help in this for us as mass media, because it has the announcement of this very strong and powerful theme with some concrete signs that make it possible to link it to everyday life. So this is something which is closer to what we do as journalists, as reporters. So this makes it more concrete in what we do, and help us to approach this very powerful theme with a contemporary language. In order to understand this, we need to understand the signs that emerge from this ball that can help us have a plan in the way we wanted to talk about the Jubilee. So we have the search for peace, the transmission of life, inmates in jail. One of the more concrete signs will be the opening of a holy gate within a prison. And Pope Francis wanted to go back to what was done by John Paul II in the year 2000. And so this is how we wanted to recount, to talk about Jubilee, to have a debt redeemed. So this is what financial institutions are working on this. They have been working on this for decades, but they have not reached this goal. There are different proposals. The OECD has a proposal with a taxation of 15% on multinational groups, but it has been rejected by the poorest countries. There has been a new proposal by the UN with a mechanism based on the redistribution of exceeding taxes towards the poorest countries. So this is one of the mechanisms that make it possible to create parts that can redeem the debt of foreign countries. So this is one of the themes that we will be following in our newspaper. This is one of the signs that go back to this Jubilee. Then the inmates, the problem of prisons, the problem of overcrowded prisons. This is a dramatic problem. It is a problem that has been underlined many times in Italy, and it seems to be impossible to find a lasting solution. So to talk about a prophecy here, and it means to insist on something that has not happened yet. So utopia, prophecy, and that means that we have to understand what is possible. Let's think about the Article number 1 of our Constitution. Italy is a republic founded on work, and when this article was written, our country was not a republic founded on work, but it was the beginning, the seed of what would happen later. So in order to recount these signs that make it possible to make a prophecy concrete, to then arrive to the theme of peace, which is a dramatic theme at the moment, because the Jubilee year will be marked by a bloodshed in many countries. Peace is a process, is a building that needs to be constructed. It has to be recounted in a very linear way, and it has to be followed in those places where peace is not present. And there are not only Ukraine and the Middle East, but also so many other places that have that are now living a moment of war, like, for instance, the Myanmar, Sudan, Haiti, whose conditions are terrible at the moment. We talked a few days ago on our newspaper about the conditions of the Gaza Strip at the moment. So, if we have to use our language, we have to ask questions, we have to follow the signs of this prophecy, and we have to be honest, and we have to be looking directly at people, looking at the future and not at the past. This is a way to have a plan to tell about the enormous theme of the Jubilee.
Un lavoro certamente
So thank you very much. Well, it's a challenging, demanding work, which will certainly be a fascinating work. By tradition, the pilgrimage towards Rome. In the past, the pilgrimage was exclusively done on foot. Paolo Giuntarelli is the director of the Regional Directorate for Presidential Affairs, Tourism, and he also deals with tourism. So for those of us who will go to Rome or will go back to Rome, what are you preparing, thinking about other places other than Rome? Are you preparing pathways? Are you preparing some itineraries which can reconcile man with nature, giving the opportunity to walk and to approach Rome walking and thinking, having lofty thoughts? Good evening. I would like to greet you on behalf of President Rocca. He cannot be with us today, but he was very much interested in the topic. I'd like to say something before answering your question. Those who spoke before me talked about the hope of the Christians, of the pilgrims, of the believers. So the category of the administrators cannot be that of hope. It must be that of efficiency. If this is true, Franco Basaglia once said that you need to answer with the optimism of action to the pessimism. This is what the Rocca administration has been doing since it started working. Vincenzo asked me what we are doing when it comes to the pathways. The Jubilee, such as tourism, represents an extraordinary mixture of competencies and knowledge and know-how. Jubilees need to be organized bearing in mind lots of skills and a lot of elements, culture, infrastructure, the environment, tourism, all these sectors, all these aspects need to be taken into account. The pilgrims, just as tourists, are temporary citizens. When we have pilgrims coming to Rome by air, by bicycle, on foot, walking, they become temporary citizens of Rome. As temporary citizens, they should have the same rights that all the other citizens have, so both in Rome and in the Lazio region. So the Rocca administration has been collaborated very closely with Monsignor Fisichella, with the structure and with all the people involved in the Jubilee, to show that the Jubilee not only involves Rome, it involves the whole of the Lazio region. Our slogan is, you have Latium all around Rome. We do not want to diminish the role of Rome, but we want to state that the whole Lazio region has a role to play when it comes to culture and spirituality. So the topic of this year's meeting is that of the essence. And so I would like to promote my region. In the A1 pavilion, we created a stand of the Lazio region, which is called Essenzialmente Lazio, which means essentially Lazio. This is the definition we gave to this stand. Please come and visit the stand. Come and see what Lazio can offer you. Come and see what the Lazio region can convey to the citizens and to tourists and to temporary citizens. So from this point of view, the work we've been carried out with a local councillor, Elena Palazzo, is a very important work. It takes into account all the pathways that already exist within the region, and we're working in synergy with all the other regions of the central Italy, Marche, Tuscany, the Marche region, Tuscany, Umbria, in order to focus on two sheets. Sheets number 33 focuses on the promotion of the Francigena way, and the Lazio region is a lead partner, whereas sheet 31 has a lead partner, the Umbria region as a lead partner. So this is to specify the synergy and the collaboration that marks all the works carried out in the region, between the regions. There's going to be another holy door in Loreto, in the Marche region. This is to show that the Jubilee should involve a very wide area, and the culture that these areas can convey should be aided to be understood thanks to concrete actions carried out by the administrations. We have important infrastructural projects. We are improving the road network of the Lazio region. We're working a lot on the improvement of the healthcare system, improving and shortening the waiting lists for healthcare in the Lazio region. We are working to improve and to better the air quality. So lots of works which involves the entire Lazio region. We have lots of ways. We have lots of pathways, the Francigena way, the St. Benedict's way, but we have other lay ways, such as the parks, Strada dei Parchi, the parks pathway, the pathway of St. Filippo Neri, Asekura, a Japanese ambassador who came to Rome in the 17th century. He disembarked in Civitavecchia and he came to Rome to meet Pope Paul V. We are building a whole storytelling when it comes to these elements. And we're also building and devising tourist religious itineraries in the towns and around the towns. You know better than I do that the pilgrim, the person choosing a pathway to cover on foot, choose the pathway. So if a pilgrim comes to Rome, this person will start to carry out and to cover a pathway on foot. We want to create some itineraries enabling pilgrims coming to Rome by air to carry out a pilgrimage within the city, within Rome. For instance, some basilicas or some important churches. There are many, many places devoted to the Virgin Mary, which are not so well known by everybody. So all the pilgrims coming to Rome should have tracked, measured pathways, enabling them to walk 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers within Rome and experience a pathway, a way, a religious way within the urban boundaries. And this also involves the Marche region, the Umbria region, and we will build together a set of urban itineraries for tourists and believers involving all the regions of central Italy. This is another testimony of our activities. So as you can easily see, Vincenzo, the work carried out by the Lazio region is an important work because it tries and create the conditions for pilgrims and tourists to live the towns, not only from an infrastructural point of view, but also spiritual and cultural points of view. We have very important, huge resources available for 2025. Taking away Rome, we should valorize the rest of the Lazio region as well, so that the municipalities of Lazio region can create events, some moments to receive tourists. So the tourists not only focus on Rome, but they also decide to visit other places of the Lazio region, because our region has many, many beautiful places. It conveys spirituality. It conveys culture, and it should be better known by everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Maria Tripodi had been invited to this panel. She's the Undersecretary of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. She cannot be with us, and she sent us the answers to the questions that I sent her. So going to the essence, I would summarize her answers. The first topic, peace, passion for peace in new generations. That was one of the first question, and she wrote that Italy with its long-lasting tradition of diplomacy and mediation, can play a key role in awakening consciences. Looking at the commitment of so many volunteers here in the Rimini meeting, I can say that the passion for peace has not been, was not lost. As the Pope said in Tor Vergata, he said, "I see in you, young people, the sentinels of the morning. We must act, knowing that everything is possible with hope." The Jubilee 2025 can be the best opportunity to revive this hope and this international brotherhood. We must take this opportunity to awaken consciences, to remind everybody that peace is not an abstract concept. It is a reality that needs to be built day by day with our commitment and our determination. The second topic was related to the remission of debt for developing countries. In the prospect of a lasting peace, the Undersecretary reminds us that from the practical point of view, remission of debt is not only a feasible prospect, it is a needed, a necessary prospect, but it is not easy, it's not simple. It requires commitment on the part of international institutions and the richest countries, and it is necessary to develop mechanisms guaranteeing that these initiatives lead to sustainable development and long-term development in the beneficiary countries, so that we can avoid past mistakes. Thank you very much to Undersecretary Tripodi for her contribution. Thank you very much. Professor Zardin, Professor of Modern History at the Cattolic University of Milan. Jubilees have entered their 8th century of history. Not all the celebrations and the institutions of the life of the Church can boast such a long history, passing through various periods, seeing the Catholic faith change. What are the elements that mark a continuity in the various Jubilees, and which today can still bring us back to the original spirit of the pilgrims? Thank you very much for this beautiful opportunity. I try to give you an answer by benefiting from some pictures of the exhibition on the history of Jubilees, which is present here in the Rimini meeting.
I believe that the most interesting element of continuity in the history of Jubilees has to be seen in the human root that has started the history of humanity.
Più remote che la ricollegano alla
And we have to go back to the tradition of the Jewish word as it is documented in the opening section of our exhibition. So the heart of the mention of Jubilees is the idea to actually act on the flow of time, going beyond pure repetition. So time is no longer a succession of instants, but it is a chain where we have spaces and moments that are a privileged reality that make us wonder on their signs. So according to some ideologies, it is as if along the timeline we have new parentheses of freedom, and every single person can rediscuss its identity, the values of our future. And this is what we need to have in the context of the world. So this, since the book of the Levitian, they decided to introduce a year of grace every 7 years, and at the end of every 50 years period.
per l'immagine evoca questa idea delle lontane premesse.
So we have this idea of this connection with the Jewish tradition. So it has always been like this from the very beginning. And we can say that the Christian announcement made this desire that was manifested in the history of the Jewish people to go back to so to speak, the idea of the human being, to take it back from the tyranny of evil. So over many years was necessary to improve the situation and to transform it into an organic system of doctrines, customs, and rituals that from the 1300 onwards were channeled into the tradition of the Jubilees, called by the supreme authority of the Latin Church, the filter per excellence that links the interchange between earth and heaven and the merciful divine perfection. But at the heart of the Christian Jubilee always remained, as it had been from the very beginning, the ferment of human need, recognized in all its density, in all its extension, and in all its implications, even the most carnal. The need for the unity of one's self, of reconciliation between self and others, the need for peace, the need to regain a meaning for existing and for dying. In a word, need for salvation, starting from the here and the now, in the perspective of the eternal. The basic substratum of the historical tradition of the Jubilees that is explained by the exhibition is the experience of bagging, the tension of a disorientation or a precariousness that instead of crushing the human ego in an incurable malaise, incites it to go outside itself, to search for ways to give answers to the emptiness it experiences, to find a firm hand to cling to, and to land on the other shore of a healed life. So this need, these questions are linked with the need of living. Shows that the second element of continuity that can be found in the history of Jubilees, the a possibility to make it back to a purely spiritual act of simply tidying up the scruples of the inner conscience. On the contrary, experiencing the Jubilee means to go through an involvement that solicited the totality of the human subject. It affected the soul, but also the affections and the materiality of the senses, and called for an appeal to global totality of one's energies, including the most primordial energies of the body considered as a whole. Physicality was the backbone of the penitential procedure that allowed access to the remission of punishments. As a rule, one had to leave one's home for a very long time. One had to move to the place where the tombs of the two supreme apostles were built. One repeatedly visited the Roman basilicas with their holy doors, gates. One prayed before the most prestigious relics, the veil of Veronica, first of all, which reproduced the face of God made flesh, from whom we expected a longed for prize of endless happiness. The pilgrimage, almost for all on foot, only for the luckiest on horseback or in a carriage, took dozens and dozens of days. If one left from the north of Europe, one could easily go hungry. Uncertainty was everywhere, and along the way, people relied on the help of charitable hospitality that was not guaranteed. There was no tourist industry. Every pilgrim had to seriously put himself at stake, taking risks without a cover. Purification began with a stripping away of one's own securities that in itself enabled the conquest of forgiveness. In the end, a truly deserved forgiveness that was the fruit of a slow and tiring journey. To reach the destination, it was inevitable to accept the rough heaviness of moving along pitiful roads in contact with dust and mud. One was forced to make oneself humble from humus, which means earth in Latin, and for this reason the most evident mark of the pilgrimage became in the earth of the past centuries the stick, the walking stick, the wide-brimmed headgear to shelter from the sun, and the touching extreme outcome of the bare, dirty feet in the foreground of pilgrims kneeling before the Virgin in a famous work by Caravaggio. A moving detail that was reinterpreted in a provocative installation by Catalan at the last Venice Biennale. The images are both exhibited. The third and final constant stamp of the great history of Jubilees is that of its choral dimensions. The granting of an extraordinary pardon for all, in just 1 year after at the beginning of the year 1300, was a sensational piece of news which circulated widely throughout Christendom, and it attracted thousands of faithful who joined the overflowing crowds of Romans. Dante himself talks about it in the comedy, which is set in the months immediately following the opening of the first Holy Year. In the Jubilees that followed, every 15 and every 25 years, the force of appeal swelled, reaching peaks that in the holy years of the 15th century, according to the most reliable sources, reached between 200,000 to 500,000 faithful. Formidable figures if you think of the living condition of the time and the transportation means. The tradition of the Jubilees took root rapidly in collective history and assumed the contours of a true mass event which scanned the workings of society as a whole in its religious spirit as well as in its civil architecture, calling everyone together in a common effort, even if then only a few were able to reach Rome in person. Every Jubilee, and this is extremely important, was a people's event, and this character was maintained even after the Protestant Reformation that led to the fracture of the Christian West. Only the anti-ecclesiastical wave of the late 18th century, the French Revolution and Napoleonic hegemony weakened the credibility of traditional models. But it was precisely the clash with modernity that was taking alternative paths that pushed the Christian conscience to rethink the contents of its traditional message and to repropose the basis of its understanding of forgiveness in a new way, especially since Vatican II, in a horizon that has been able to open up in a planetary sense, turning into the scenario of an event of even greater universal importance. So this is actually the idea that is at the final part of the final point, the ending point of our exhibition.
Allora, abbiamo il tempo per un secondo giro, ma che deve essere davvero velocissimo, quindi con domande.
So we have time for a second round of questions, but you need to be very concise in your answers. I would like to start from His Excellency Monsignor Fisichella. There are many people following us and listening to us. So Monsignor Fisichella, as many of you know, was also a dean, a teacher. He had to do with young people. In this era of social media, we talk about the occasion to gain indulgence. Can you please explain what it means? Is it possible to change this word? Lucrare in Italian means to benefit from, to take advantage of. I would erase this verb. I would like this verb never to be used. And not only that, we've been focusing on the fact that we should not mention indulgences in the plural, but rather indulgence in the singular. There's nothing to gain, there's nothing to take benefit from, because there's nothing to be bought. So indulgence, the pardon, the forgiveness, is a gift of God, and this must be remembered. So I'm saying this to the young people following us, listening to us. Indulgence is a very weird name. But since the very first periods of the Jubilees, up until the 7th or 8th century, indulgence was a synonym of mercy. Indulgence means mercy, actually. Indulgence means that God approaches you and comes towards you. As the professor said, the Jubilee does not stem from the fact that one thought about the Jubilees of the Bible. Nobody thought about the Jubilee of the Bible. This happens in the ensuing balls. The Jubilee was not created because Boniface VIII wanted it. That Pope didn't even know what a Jubilee was. In spite of the fact that his predecessor, Celestine V, 7 years earlier had given the great forgiveness, the perdonanza, which continues in today's world. It still continues. It is the 100th year. Cardinal Stefaneschi, who was there, and then he drafted this account of how the Jubilee took place, wrote that the people of Rome went to the Patriarchium, to San Giovanni Laterano, the current San Giovanni Laterano of the church. There was a citadel there, and they would ask for the indulgence. They asked for pardon, for forgiveness. And the Pope called Stefaneschi and asked, what is this indulgence and pardon and forgiveness for the new centenary? He didn't know it. There was a research, but nothing was found. So I don't know the extent to which Stefaneschi was faithful to history. However, he wrote that 2 persons aged over 100 years were brought from Spain, and they remembered that their grandfathers had talked about them, a big pardon, a big forgiveness. So the Pope gave way to the willingness of the Roman people to grant pardon, to grant indulgence. In the first ball, the Quorum Habent, the Pope said it's going to be a forgiveness, not only a full forgiveness, a completely full forgiveness. So the Jubilee, dear friends, is the announcement of a big forgiveness that is granted to us. The Pope uses a very beautiful expression in the ball, stating that the forgiveness, the pardon, does not change the past, but it can help live the future better. So pardoning doesn't change what has happened, even in a climate of violence, of vengeance, of revenge, which is very much present in today's culture, and we end up forgetting about pardon, about forgiveness. The Jubilee comes to remind us of one of the biggest gifts of God, indulgence. The pardon is grace. It is not a conquest. So to gain or to buy or to benefit from indulgence doesn't mean anything. You can make an experience. You can experience God's forgiveness. So this experience takes place through pilgrimage, through passing through the holy door, through professing one's faith, through charity, through praying for the Pope and for the Church. This is what it means to announce the pardon every 25 years. God is coming towards you. Don't be afraid to welcome God's invitation that of giving you a new life. With pardon, with forgiveness, your life will change. If you experience the pardon by God, your life will change. And you become a tool for forgiveness towards others. This is what the Jubilee is about. This is why we talk about hope, because the pardon, the forgiveness gives you the possibility to look at the future in a different way. It is an act of love, an act of conquest given to us by God, which makes us feel the sons of God, with a prospect ahead of us, a common life with God. Thank you very much. President Aurigemma, 33 million of pilgrims, Rome and the entire Lazio region. Are you ready to be up to the challenge? Airports, road networks, hospitality, accommodation. We're ready. We're ready to put the entire region at the disposal of pilgrims. Many hamlets, hundreds of municipalities. The Lazio region has many important places, the Benedictine monasteries, the ways of St. Benedict and St. Francis. We are organizing an entire machine. We have not so many months before the holy door will be open, so we need to be ready. So the relationship and the collaboration between institutions has been consolidated with time, over time. The Ryder Cup at the beginning of September of last year saw the presence of over 170,000 tourists, thanks to an excellent collaboration between the municipality, the region, the metropolitan city of Rome, and the national government. We managed to welcome them all and to show the beauties of our region. The Lazio region represents culture, tradition, important values that have to be known by all, and we are building on this. The exhibition that was described is very, very beautiful. I would like to invite you to visit the exhibition dedicated to Alcide De Gasperi, talking about a policy based on construction, a kind of politics based on construction, of building things, building relations. Alcide De Gasperi managed to work so that Italy could be one of the 7 economic powers of the world. The policy, the decision makers should go back to build, not only clashes. I'm referring to the willingness to build. And many politicians belonging to different parties decided to collaborate with a common objective. The Jubilee must be an opportunity to bring politics to the proper channels of communication, comparison of ideas. Thank you.
I pellegrini di speranza di cui ci parla Papa Francesco, in un mondo che davvero non sembra, come dire, dare tanti segnali. Ma quando si parla di pellegrini di speranza, a te chi ti viene in mente? A chi pensi?
Sentendo parlare prima il professore mi viene in mente una caratteristica dei pellegrini, che è quella della pazienza. C'è un verso bellissimo di Rilke che dice: abbi pazienza verso tutto ciò che c'è di irrisolto nel tuo cuore. Nel nostro mestiere abbiamo a che fare con questioni spesso irrisolte e siamo immersi in un mondo dell'informazione e della comunicazione che è istantaneo, velocissimo, ipertrofico, avvolgente, ma che si consuma nello spazio di un attimo. per sue caratteristiche e natura. Allora un invito forse è a trovare pellegrini, in questo caso anche operatori di informazione, è quello di avere la pazienza di raccontare le cose secondo tempi più lunghi, senza dimenticarle. Così vi invito a leggere il giornale di domani, perché per esempio abbiamo scelto di dedicare l'apertura a che cosa è successo alle famiglie che hanno perso la casa di Scampia nel crollo della Vela Celeste un mese fa. Ce l'hanno una casa?
Grazie. Direttore Giuntarelli, lei tra le competenze c'ha anche l'audiovisivo. Allora, il Giubileo è un evento da vivere, ma anche da raccontare, da far vedere. Il ruolo delle immagini sarà determinante. Può essere un'occasione per rilanciare il settore dell'audiovisivo un po' in sofferenza, e poi la responsabilità di raccontare il bene che si svilupperà lungo questi 12 mesi, in un momento in cui le immagini che ci circondano ci parlano soltanto prevalentemente di violenza, di sangue e di morte?
Grazie, è una bellissima domanda, perché mi permette prima di tutto di dire che il Lazio finalmente ha un piano triennale per il cinema che era diverso tempo che non aveva, e che presenteremo insieme al piano annuale tutte le attività la prossima settimana al Festival di Venezia. E proprio il piano triennale del cinema ci consente a questo punto di poter anticipare le produzioni, di mettere in campo quelle che sono delle risorse, ma dando un indirizzo a quella che è la produzione cinematografica. Noi abbiamo delle risorse che vengono spese, diversi milioni di euro che vengono spese nei confronti dell'impresa cinematografica, sulle produzioni, cortometraggi, festival. Il piano triennale ci consente di dare un indirizzo rispetto a quello che il Lazio e che l'amministrazione vuole, e quello che vuole è anche esaltare e valorizzare il Giubileo proprio quest'altro anno. Noi i bandi che faremo il prossimo anno saranno dei bandi che andranno proprio a cercare di valorizzare il ruolo del Giubileo, che cercheranno di creare dei festival, di dare la spinta alla creazione di festival cinematografici che svolgano questo ruolo, a creare anche la realizzazione di percorsi turistici che leghino cinema e spiritualità, perché il Lazio è un luogo che nella storia del cinema ha rappresentato in modo proprio esemplare quella che è la spiritualità, e c'è il turismo cinematografico che è un turismo straordinario e che noi dobbiamo in un certo qual modo sistematizzare, e con le risorse che metteremo nel 2025, l'abbiamo messa anche nel 2024, andremo a migliorare questo tipo di offerta. Il cinema è uno strumento straordinario per poter comunicare, per poter dare emozioni, e dicevi giustamente, il cinema è uno strumento che ci consente di dare un messaggio diverso, c'è tanta cinematografia, no? Ne parlavo prima con degli amici, mi veniva in mente, alla domanda che mi avevi fatto, mi veniva in mente il monologo del colonnello Kurz nel Apocalypse Now, no? Quando parla dell'orrore. No? Un monologo straordinario. Mi veniva in mente nel Settimo sigillo Max von Sydow quando si confessa insieme al diavolo, o mi veniva in mente anche Blade Runner, no? Il monologo finale dell'androide che parla delle lacrime che vengono perdute, la sua vita che viene. Ecco, il cinema ha sempre trasmesso questi momenti di drammi, e noi vogliamo invece in questo momento che il cinema trasmetta un valore positivo, e allora, ripeto ancora, noi faremo in modo che le produzioni cinematografiche vengano.
There need to be positive values, and that means that we need to finance productions that will have the Jubilee as a priority. We want to, I think about Michel Desserteau when he talks about the other. And the other is also Christ. So it is Christ looking at us, and we want that cinema represents also these values. Professor Zardin, the Pope, has chosen hope as the central theme of the 2025 Jubilee. We know that this is more than just a theme, but in past Jubilees was hope in a way present. There was something devoted to hope in previous Jubilees. But I don't think it is possible to single out some kind of continuity, even though the theme of hope is linked with the theme of trust. So the extraordinary Jubilee wanted by Pope Francis was dedicated to mercy. This time, well, we have a more traditional foundation, so the possibility to to abandon our situation of suffering, to have a pardon that regenerates our life. And this is something that was present also from the very beginning, the very first Christian Jubilees. But I think it is more important to underline the originality of the fact that Pope Francis focuses on this positivity, because by doing so, we have different elements of the Christian proposals, and so the focus is moved to the gift. So salvation, gift created by the sacrifice of Christ, is some form of grace that opens up in its light in the darkness and goes towards the suffering of modern humanity, even before it is requested. So the love of God comes first. The mercy of God goes towards the suffering man. So this is a theme that had already been put forward by other popes, and it created a phenomenon that in our exhibition was expressed. I don't know whether we can have a look at the last slide. Maybe it's too late. Well, anyway, we underline this in a way that is the refocusing on the essence. So this is the most decisive aspect, I think. The traditional emphasis on what is fault, fear, and this also actually gives precedence to love that goes towards the suffering of man, that embraces man with stronger concreteness in a way, and so this refocusing, this switching of balances is a very interesting challenge, an opportunity for everyone that will be lived in a very direct way in the next Jubilee. Thank you, professors. We are at the end of our meeting, but I would like to ask Monsignor Fisichella to conclude this. Two questions, and since we have actually taken part in some of the works of the commissions for the organization of the Jubilee, I have realized how relevant the role of Monsignor Fisichella is actually playing. So this is my first question. My second question is the following. Do you think, and can you share it with us, do you have some kind of specific hope for the 2025 Jubilee? Well, actually, I always try to be very calm, very serene, but, well, we have a lot of work to do. The people working with me know that. The commissioner said so, the mayor said so. You cannot even imagine the enormity of the work that we have to carry out, but it is a service that we do for the church in a moment that is extremely difficult and delicate, and we hope it can be lived in the right way. So, well, the Olympic Games just finished. But nobody talked about the organization of the Olympic Games, at least in Italy. We talked about the 40 medals that our athletes won, 12 golden medals, and so on. So, well, this is an analogy that I'm trying to make. The work we do then, well, has a purpose. What is most important is the final experience, and we hope to win 40 medals as well. My only hope is that the Church, by experiencing, by living this Jubilee, will be convinced of the beauty and the responsibility of bringing the gospel to everyone. Because the Jubilee is a very specific expression of evangelization. Thank you. I thank you all for being here tonight, for your contribution. Thank you for your attention. We wish you a very good continuation of the meeting.
Civiltà dell'amore, fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Qui è ora. Qui è dove conoscere significa confrontarsi con le sfide della contemporaneità, ascoltare le nuove generazioni da accogliere nel tempo presente. Ora, Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Visita il sito unicat.it.
Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?